Okay, this is my summary and reflection assignment. All right, we're gonna start with the unit overview. So the grade level is going to be in the 11th grade, and the subject is U.S. history. The unit title is the Civil Rights Movement. Brief summary: the unit will describe and expand on the Civil Rights Movement that occurred in the 1950s and 1960s. It will highlight famous and infamous figures who stood up to racial discrimination, as well as protests that led the movement. The unit will show students how important the Civil Rights Movement was for both African Americans and other cultures as well. A good connection my students can make is outlining how the cultural civil rights movement impacts all of us today. The unit will lead into the Chicano movement that follows and will be a good connection to make between English learning and native speaking English students. Okay, so the Common Core reflection standards, I have two of them. First is HSH16, analyze the relationship among different regional, social, ethnic, and racial groups, and explain how these groups' experiences have related to national identities. Next is HSH32, analyze how ideologies, religions, and belief systems have influenced economic, political, and social institutions over time. And then my ISTE standards, I have three of them. 2.1a is set professional learning goals to explore and apply pedagogical approaches that made possible by technology and reflect on their effectiveness. 2.2c, model for colleagues the identification, exploration, evaluation, curation, and adoption of new digital resources and tools for learning. And then 2.7a, provide alternative ways for students to demonstrate competency and reflect on their learning using technology. Unit goals. I have three unit goals. The first is that students will be able to define key concepts of the civil rights movement. The second is that students will be able to write about these types of protests that occurred during the civil rights movement. And students will be able to list the key individuals who led the movement. Essential questions. First one is, how did the civil rights movement begin? Who are the individuals that led the movement? What are some types of protests that occurred? What were the consequences of the protests? Who opposed the civil rights movement? Why did African Americans start the civil rights movement? Where did the civil rights movement begin? And how did African Americans feel emotionally during the protest? Were they excited, scared, numb, joyful? Unit time frame. So I plan for this unit to be 6 days. And the key vocabulary I have are civil rights, segregation, equality, oppression, freedom, and constitutional rights. Integration. Students will complete essays on key topics listed in the units, and the text reading, they will be reading through their textbooks as well as their DBQs that utilize primary and secondary sources. And they will also have thought-provoking questions. I hope that they have answers that are answers that they create and not answers that they can just find on Google. So something that really makes them think. Changes, feedbacks, edits, and considerations. Okay, so for my formative assessment grading criteria, I changed the point value to tailor towards the students to get better points. And I had a little clarification on the answer accuracy, both for me and also for my students to understand better. In the summative assessments, I elaborated on a question explanation. One of the questions, I believe, is the first question, is just said explain, and then after I said explain a certain topic, just makes it easier for the students to understand what I am looking for. And I also increased the point value so students receive better grades. I believe it was out of 5, so I think it was 5, then 4.5, and 4, then 3.5. Well, it makes it a little bit easier to get a better grade if you miss one or two questions. And authentic assessment. In the instruction, I changed the authentic assessment altogether to relate towards real life as opposed to what I had before, which was a poster. And then I also changed the point description to tailor towards the new assessment as well. In the assessment rubric, I changed the totals and rubric itself to, again, tailor towards the assessment, and also point value change. I changed the point values just to make it a little bit easier to get a couple more points. Gap analysis. Current state. All right, so pun intended, current state. I'm currently living in California, and I'm halfway down my courses in my teaching certificate. I only have um, 2 more courses to do, not including this one. Uh, Probably about a semester or half a semester to go. Um, Improvements. I want to improve my confidence, and that just comes with practice. If a teacher is really confident, then students will see that the teacher knows what they're teaching. Organization. I've come a long way with organization, especially in this class and with my other classes as well. But organization is key to succeeding in my future. So I would like to improve my organization. Clarification, explanation, and writing. So in my unit overview, as you saw in my other slides, I need to clarify and explain more. It'll help me in the long run as well. Um, it also helps students understand what I am looking for. Desired future state. Okay, so for growth, I would like to be a high school teacher by 2024, January. That would be right after this teaching certificate. That's the goal, ideally. I hope to move to Chandler, Gilbert area in Arizona. I'm open to other areas as well, just to get my foot in the door. I want to continue my education after teaching for a couple of years with a master's in education, just to become a better self, myself, and be the best teacher I can be. As well as I want to join the football staff. I currently coach football right now, and I love it. Um, and I think it'll make my teaching a lot more fun. SMART goals. I have 4 SMART goals. By the beginning of January 2024, I will be a teacher at Arizona High School. By the beginning of June 2025, I will be a football coach at the high school I teach at. By the beginning of January 2027, I will be starting my master's program in education. And by the beginning of January 2029, I will finish my master's in education. Gap analysis, gap and action plan. Okay, I have 3 gaps listed. First gap is time. It's just time to finish this credential, to finish my classes. Um, I I can't really do anything on that except for wait for it to finish. So I'll just finishing my courses, and then teaching and subject knowledge tests. I need to take these 2 tests to become a teacher in Arizona, and my intent to close is I need to study and pass these tests. There's a lot of material I can utilize to help me study for these tests. And then lack of colleagues, and this just comes with being new at a school. I'm not going to really know anybody, so I won't hesitate to reach out to my fellow teachers and colleagues to ask for assistance if I need so. SMART goals. I have 2 SMART goals listed. I will complete my teaching and subject knowledge test by the end of October 2023, and I will reach out to colleagues by the halfway point of my first year teaching. Plan on moving forward, stay true on the path of my teaching certificate, finish this class and my 2 other classes, and as well as finish the tests by October 2023. Yeah, those are my 2 plans so far. That's all I need to do just to get a teaching career. Summary and reflection. The classroom I observed last semester was very football oriented because it was a football coach that I observed as well. He included some student projects, not a lot, but there were some student projects that were on the wall, but most of it was just football pictures. Um, the arrangement of the classroom had table clusters with 4 students per cluster, and there were 2 screens to maximize the presentation what my mentor teacher taught, one in the front, one in the back, so every student had the opportunity to see. And the teacher's desk was in a corner. My teacher's instruction, he mainly taught through guided practice like presentations, but he also included group work and DBQ assignments as well. Student learning, students were tested through the presentations with 3 questions. So in between the presentation, two to ask 3 questions. They were also tested by answering DBQ assignments. Participation was also recorded. Cultural responsive and appropriate ethical considerations. Lessons were taught by assuring all cultures were recognized and differences were observed. Before triggering topics, students were also warned. Summary and reflection, what I've learned. Mock unit overview is great practice to creating a unit overview of the future units I teach. Um, it definitely helped a lot, and I will be making unit overviews for all my units. Detail, through the feedback I got, the more detailed, the better. It just makes it easier for everybody. And student assessment types, I learned that there's a lot of student assessment types. Um, and it just differs per person and per unit. Impacting my practice moving forward. There's many ways to support students who struggle. First is to pinpoint how they struggle. Um, Add more time during assessments and assignments. Change assessments to tailor towards students and to plan ahead. For emergent bilinguals, um, it's great to offer assignments in their native language as well as slowing down enunciation. Equity and inclusion. Students stay engaged, and a great way to stay engaged is group work. So when all students are engaged, they're more likely to be included in the assignments and group work. Social justice. Everyone has a voice in my class. Doesn't matter who you are, what where you're from. They're all equal in my classroom. As well as a safe and inclusive learning environment. Um, it is known that if a safe learning environment is present, then students are more likely to stay engaged. And steps moving forward is primarily to take and pass these classes. Without these classes, I can't teach. As well as my tests, I need to pass those tests as well. And staying organized. I've come a long way learning to be organized, but there's still more learning to come. So I would like to stay organized. Using information moving forward. This course has taught me to be more organized, like I said before. Um, it takes a lot of patience to create unit plans. Um, a lot of work goes into it, but in the long run, it works out and it's definitely helpful. And to continue and construct and perfect each unit plan as I teach it for the next year. So I take each unit plan and I add on to it. I delete stuff, whatever it needs, just to be better for the next year. I'm always improving my unit plans. And these are my references. Thanks.